Yeah, I mean, I think you guys were kind of going back and forth there, and I'll let you continue where you want to lead that conversation, so.
I guess I would like to hear your guys' opinion on this. I mean, you are on the fire district, but I would like to hear what your guys' thoughts are on it. I don't know if George is okay with hearing what they think on it, or.
I mean, and it's not,
Right.
I'm not saying we can't speak on it, I
Right.
mean, we certainly can, but
I just didn't want to put words
I
in
just
George's mouth.
personally wanted to rely more on you guys on this, because it's hard for me to be neutral, you know what I mean? I don't know what I would decide if I wasn't on the fire department, if I was one of the two previous mayors. I can't tell you, I mean, how they would have decided, or if I would have agreed with them or not, and so for me, it's just one of those deals where it's tough, but Jeff is, I mean, I'm just, that's kind of the approach that I'm gonna take, but Jeff is more than welcome to speak on it, it's.
I guess, in my opinion, that if you say they don't get anything, that's kind of, I don't feel right about that. I am a taxpayer inside the city, and we do get fire coverage from them. But I also get your guys' point that it'd be nice if the county, the other entity that had got some money would have given it to some other entities, but that didn't happen. And I'm not saying, you gotta give it from the fire state aid, but I think they deserve something. And what that amount is, I don't know. But as a taxpayer and on the fire department, I think they deserve something.
I think I agree with that more. I was thinking about it more, and I guess it's just kind of a bummer that we're the only ones that seem to want to help with this one.
Yep.
So,
But there's a couple years ago where the townships did get some money and they gave it to the fire department, and I don't remember what funding that was.
and at that time, was it a pretty equal distribution, would you say, or do you remember? Okay.
And did the city not give any money at that time?
I'd have to look back. I want to say it was 10 or what? Oh, I think that's what Mike, do you remember?
I'm trying to remember all the details, but I'd have to look back. We gave something, but I mean, it wasn't $100,000 or anything, but we gave something. I just can't recall exact amounts.
Mike, as a finance director, what do you think would be fair in this situation, just in your opinion?
I think of it as state sent the money to the city, and from my perspective, I think, how can I get the most bang for the buck for 7,000 residents? I think that if I turn over money to the district, I can't get as much. I'm not saying that the residents won't benefit.
Right.
I don't think they will benefit as much. That's my perspective. I would much prefer to see the townships, or in this case, the county, if we're going to giving their pro rata share.
Agreed. Okay. No.
And Steve does sit on the fire board, so I think he would have a good perspective. It's too bad that he's not here tonight, but.
I guess morally, I think it would be okay to give some. Now, whether I don't know how much that is or what we could justify. I think it would be nice to give them some. You kind of compromise between, totally, I don't know. Is there any way we could petition the county to maybe look into it? But, I mean, maybe they weren't aware that some of that money did come through those townships, and maybe some of it should have been allotted towards fire. Is that something that we could try and do to get them to look at their budget again? I guess I don't know.
We can try to do whatever we want.
Right.
but-
So maybe we just need more time on this one. Is there a time limit on this, Josie, or do we have these funds until perpetuity or whatever, right? Just no
No
time limit?
deadline, no deadline.
Is there any huge pressing need for you, Travis, for us to make a decision tonight, or Al?
No, the only thing I would say is if you can make the pressing decision that we could appropriate the encrypted radio stuff, because it's 12 weeks out.
Sure.
Just that in itself tonight would be the only time pressing piece.
I think that, I mean, based off what I'm hearing, I don't think any of us would be for giving I don't think any of us would be for giving the fire 50%. If I'll go on a limb and say that. So I think, I mean, there's 153,000 for sure that PD's gonna get from this, for sure at least. So, I mean, if that means you gotta order your encrypted radios, that's more than plenty for that. I don't know if that gives you any sort of direction.
And that I do have some questions on the radios, so, and I should be more versed on this stuff, but, so, I mean, isn't it the county's responsibility to encrypt the signal coming from the county and not necessarily or do we, I mean, and maybe you guys could kind of fill me in on how that actually works,
Just the
and,
big picture, so that FBI, DOJ, just the CJIS data, criminal justice data, has to be encrypted by, I don't remember, 2026-ish, 7, somewhere. So we have years to get there. So there's 2 different levels of encryption, and in order to actually be compliant by that year, you have to have hardware, right, that receives the encrypted data. So like we have 6 mobile radios in the squads. We got, portables are already capable of being encrypted. They're not encrypted right now.
okay,
So once they turn the switch, and we're the only ones that are not 100% up and running with our encrypted portable stuff. So that goes for anything with CJIS data, which means like driver's license data, license plate data.
so anything you're reading back to the
Correct.
county as well,
And
yeah,
so I know
okay.
Al was at one of our chiefs meetings. We talked about that a lot. I mean, the county hasn't even really decided how they're going to decipher that, but the fire district doesn't have to go to encrypted as far as CJIS FBI laws.
It's just the criminal,
Just the criminal, but the problem
but
with
then
that,
then to
that we
receive it,
discussed-
though, you have to have an encrypted
so the
ability to
problem
receive
discussed is
it, or-
then, Fire Chief Al won't be able to communicate directly with law or hear what law is doing because he won't have the encrypted radio.
Sure.
Right, so I think, and I don't want to speak for Al's, but I think you kind of tentatively thinking and have some of your command staff have the encrypted hardware pieces, not all of fire to have the encrypted pieces was kind of their intent for that. But anyway, so the encrypted piece is something that's coming along the lines from federal mandates. We, as far as a city, have to be responsible for the hardware to like receive the encrypted data right across the radio. And the 6 radios we have left there don't have the capability of the hardware to actually do the data encryption piece.
Okay.
So there's no way we could just say, we're not gonna follow that federal and not use the encrypted? You wouldn't be able to communicate with anybody else that is using encrypted? Is that,
We won't be able to communicate or even transmit
okay,
any CJIS data. We wouldn't have a radio system. I mean, like I said, we're somewhere up, we have all our portables, which we got 2-3 years ago, are all capable, so we're good there. That's a nice piece, but we're still down to those 6 left that are squad radios.
so we physically wouldn't be able to, or the federal government wouldn't like us to be able to?
We wouldn't be able to.
Okay,
Yeah, it's, once that date comes, we won't have an option because we'll be out of compliance with FBI CJIS data, and we won't be able to have access to it.
Mayor and council, if I may, just add to the discussion for the question asked. From the minutes from September 1st of 2020, it was shared and approved, or discussed and approved, that 24,000 would go for PPE and audiovisual for distance learning for Fire District Station Number 1 as part of the coronavirus funds.
Is there any disadvantage to buying those radios, though, too soon? I mean, if we don't have to have them until, I mean, do they like useful life and stuff like that? I mean, should we be waiting until we absolutely have to have them, or what do you think?
No, I mean, we're the only one holding up the county on their.
I got you, so
their
they're ready
dates.
to switch, and that's, okay. Sure.
I like that idea, though. Not have to switch until we have to, because the useful life of a radio, what, probably 8 years or less? So if you start now, say if we get the radios now, in 8 years, you're gonna need to replace them again, even though the radios that we have currently aren't up due for replacement yet. So.
Yeah, some of those radios that are on that list of 6, I bet you some of them are over 15 years old.
Okay, so they are, some of them are definitely needing it, okay.
So you're saying all the cities within the county is already upgraded and Isani is the only one who has not?
100% correct, yeah. Everybody else is, we're just not 100% upgraded. I mean, they could throw the switch tomorrow and we just would have these 6 radios not operational.
Do you have other radios that are operational then, or no?
All our portables and the other 4 mobiles are.
Okay,
Now, they're not operating under encryption, but they're capable, if that makes sense.
okay.
So who would get these 6, or how does that work?
They would just, you mean who? They would go in the squads that have the ones that are non-encrypted radios. So then the question is, what do we do with those non-encrypted radios?
Right,
We don't have any use for them, so I mean, it'd be a council decision if you'd want to see if somebody who doesn't need encrypted radios could use them within the city,
okay,
like fire.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm okay with moving forward with the radios, if we want to do that.
I think, yeah, would you say it's safe to say that Travis is gonna get 50% or more of this allocation? Would you guys say that's probably safe?
I would
So
say
that
that's-
you could at least spend 50% confidently. I would say that seems fair in what I'm hearing, at least.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to say just go ahead and
Well,
spend it
right,
however
right,
you
right,
want
right,
at
but
this
you can
point,
plan-
but,
I mean, plan,
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
fine with spending that
so you
39.5
have some sort
there,
of
yeah.
direction.
I mean, just a thought here, and I'm just, if you were going to say, okay, maybe some of this money could be utilized as a benefit sort of to our police department and our fire department and where those intersect, if you need radios that are encrypted in some of these vehicles so that you can hear what police and county are doing, I mean, there would be an area where the police department would have an advantage and so would the fire department. That I could see is, I mean, is there any other areas where maybe you guys would have items that overlap that would be a benefit to communicating? I mean, so that, I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying, I mean, there's an example of some way I could see that, it would be a benefit for you to be able to communicate with fire on these encrypted radios as well, so. And maybe I'm not quite understanding how that, am I right about that? Yeah, so, I mean, I get, and I don't know how much, those, well, I mean, what do they, I mean, how many would you need if you were at? We have budgeted this year to encrypt 6 of our. So you're basically at that same 39.5 is what it would be the similar cost, I would think, or do your radios maybe
I
have more
don't
function?
know, I don't remember what the portable price was. Those are.
Oh, that's, okay, yeah, so you're talking in the squad vehicles and you're talking portables, yeah, right. Okay, so you could switch over to the fire channel and still communicate back and forth, so it's, okay. So one well, but you wouldn't be able to switch over to law and, well, you would still hear them on the fire channel, yeah,
Could,
so.
say if we were to do the thermal imaging or the drone, could that be a shared unit between PD and fire? Okay. Okay. Okay, so if you don't need another, then it wouldn't really help much, okay.
Well, anyway, I mean, I think we've got some ideas, and I don't know that, are we ready to make a decision in one way or another? I think definitely we can move forward with those radios at this point, and you guys maybe want more time to think about it, and maybe Steve's input on this a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think if we want to maybe add this to old business for the next committee of the whole, and sorry to not get a final decision for you guys tonight, but I think if Steve was here, we probably would have come up with one, and I think it's just, but I guess I would encourage us, if you guys or anybody has some ideas on how you could find a joint use for something that would benefit both police and fire, that maybe that would be, you know, one way to think about some of this stuff, but that's just a suggestion, so, and I could see everybody's argument on all sides of it is a fair argument, and, you know, it's just, it's not something I wanna wade into too deep myself, but,
I do think fire should get something of it, it's just a matter of what. So, look forward to finishing that.
yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to E3, providing I legislate to boards and commissions discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. So at our last city council meeting, it was discussed to add I legislate and make it an option for all boards and commission members. Jaden, Ms. Strand and myself were doing some troubleshooting testing with it. And one thing we did find, and we wanted to bring it to your attention before we officially moved forward, is that even though we can create separate groups for people, we are not able to differentiate meetings between the two. For example, in I legislate, when you see, and just for the public, I legislate is our packet agenda software. When you look and you see all the council meetings and COW, Planning Commission, EDA in our list, everybody of the other groups and boards would see the same thing. I can't say just the park board is just for them. So where that becomes a topic for discussion is if Ms. Strand and myself give you something that's confidential in the packet that doesn't go to the public on our website, every board and commission gets the same packet. So therefore, we would not be able to include any confidential information any further. So that'd be like our closed session, sometimes that's done. A solution to that, if we still want to move forward, is that staff would go back to the way we used to do confidential information in the past, which is to provide it in printed form at your places on the dais. But it would not be able to be seen in your I legislate.
I mean, there's not very many times where we have confidential information, so, you know, I think just the ease of access for our boards and commissions would be probably worth it, I think.
Especially if we're gonna be adding to the park board.
And
it's a
really, I
very
mean, you guys are
valuable
probably
resource.
printing a lot of those agendas anyway and doing things like that for those people that, I guess maybe not, they're not, you don't really print a whole lot, I
We
guess,
don't
do you?
print them any longer. We do ask them that
Yeah,
they go to our
right.
website and download it.
That's right, yeah, so, but I'd be okay with just saying, okay, any confidential stuff, we're gonna just print and pass out, and I think it would make things easier on them to
I
be
think
able
we
to.
usually do that primarily anyways, don't we? I think I've seen a couple
I
confidential.
mean, there probably,
Yeah. last year
probably is some
maybe.
of that, but
Maybe not, okay.
are you
I don't
okay with
think
that, or what would you guys prefer?
You know, either way, staff can move forward with either option. It really, like, as you mentioned, we don't have a lot of closed sessions. We used to always print that stuff in the past, so to us, it's fine, as long as you're on board with it. It makes no difference to us.
And I think it would help people that are maybe on park board or EDA, they could kind of see what's going on at every meeting. You get more of a feel for how it all works, and maybe someone will want to get more involved by seeing more of how we see our stuff. I think it's a great resource, that's why I brought it up, and I would still vote for it.
Okay. Yeah, all right, yeah,
Since
so
we
I
have the
think we can,
consensus, so I will move forward, either we'll print it, or we could also send it separately via email confidential. And then we will make it an option for all boards and commissions. Thank you.
thank you. All right, this one, I think, probably won't take a whole lot of discussion, the next one is, probably would be more, but, and maybe, I'll tell you what, maybe we can just recess if we run a little long here, but, and then we'll come back to it. But E4, the elimination of the 65 overlay district and rezoning plans, so, yeah, well, let's just keep going here. So, but thank you, that was a good idea, but we only got a couple minutes anyway, so. So I basically, I'm just asking to give direction to our city staff to make the 65 overlay zoning district go away. So I would like to, you know, the areas like Isani Ready Mix, you know, and Knife River. I mean, Knife River literally had to build a second building off of the 65 overlay and buy property just so that they could build it, because they aren't allowed to add on to their structure because they're not zoned for it. I mean, and that's been years ago now that happened, but I mean, I just can't believe that we would have made them do that. And So, I mean, you've got, and, you know, Isani Ready Mix, I think, has been here since like 73 or something like that, and I don't, and then you can
That-
correct me if I'm wrong, but,
That is also because their existing parcel was in a commercial district. So it's not just for that parcel and Isani Ready Mix, just the overlay district, it's also the commercial district. So just to,
well, right, yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not, yeah,
but
I'm
it's-
not,
so it's
but it
both.
just happens to apply to
Yes,
them
and it
because they're an
applies for
industrial
both.
business,
Yes,
yes. You're right, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're treated unfairly, but they're treated unfairly, I think. So, yeah, so I mean, that's, all I'm asking is that I think we should take the industrial areas, put them back to industrial, take the business areas and put them back to just a basic business, which I suppose would be B1, right? And B2, yeah, so basically, I just want to simplify it, get it, and right now, the 65 overlay, what it does is it, you know, restricts those businesses that are operating differently from what they want to see there. They want to see commercial development, well, but then you can't develop your own business that you have on your property, you know, it's crazy, so I want to get rid of that, and then, you know, that right now, like 65 overlay, you've got special requirements for signage and landscaping and all sorts of other little things that, you know, go above and beyond the normal zoning for business. And I just think, you know, if our normal zoning for business is okay, then why can't it just be okay on 65 too? I don't see a reason why we need to take special care. I mean, I understand there's cars driving by and you want it to look nice, but these businesses are gonna make it look nice because they're putting money into building buildings and doing all this other stuff. So I just don't know that we need to add a bunch of other restrictions on them and special things that we want them to do.
So residential properties now will no longer have to come to the city of Isani, even if they do not live within the city of Isani to get a permit. Now they can go to the county or township?
Well, so you're saying with our zoning or our, what, I'm forgetting the word of that, but,
that would be the tier 1 zoning.
yes, tier 1, yeah.
So that's different than the Highway 65.
So it still would have that, but it would be, is there, and I think you're right, there is some residential property as well, and I would be just perfectly
I'd be-
fine with going back to residential on that. Anywhere where it's current use, I think the zoning should be what its current use is. So if it's currently residential, then let's zone it back to residential. If it's currently industrial, let's zone it back to industrial. And if it's currently commercial, or it's, you know, somewhere that they're looking to develop commercially, then, you know, we can go to commercial, so.
I think there are a few ways that we can looking at that zoning district to make sure that what's growing there is in the best interest of the city and the residents, where you want development to happen, which we've talked about a lot, about what you don't want built next door to you, but in the past. But I think there are ways we could possibly allow an existing use to expand on their parcel without changing the zoning districts as far as the commercial zoning districts and residential in those areas. So there's a few different things we can look at for that. If you want to remove the Highway 65 zoning overlay district, that's another issue. So there's a couple layers here that we're talking about for the Highway 65 area, I guess, within the city. But
Okay. I mean, as long as there's flexibility, I'm okay with that too, you know what I mean? Because if that residential, because that's the thing, is when somebody's done living in that home, well, they may want to sell it as commercial, and so I'm okay with having it at least be a multi-use or something like that. I'd be perfectly fine with that too, as long as they have the ability to leave it as is if they want to, so, or if they want to sell it as is, or if they, you know, so all of that kind of stuff, so.
which is what is allowed right now. A non-conforming use is allowed to stay in that use. If it changes hands, they're just currently not allowed to expand.
Right.
So
and
they
that-
can't
yeah.
build another house or add on to their house or add on to their business in those areas if it's not an existing use.
Yeah, and that's what I'd like to change, so. So I think you've got a consensus up here that we'd like to have some time spent in making that happen, so. And I know that'll be something that we'll have to come back to and bring to planning, of course, and do all sorts of other things, but,
Would it be okay if we completed the sign ordinance changes first and then immediately after that.
Yeah, which I
then
think we're
start
basically gonna
discussing.
be done with tonight.
Probably at least one more meeting, because we have 5C through 11, and then we have another section, the
Okay.
last few sections, so.
I think there's only two other, well, anyway, let's go ahead and, if I can get a motion to recess the committee of the whole, and we'll resume this after the council meeting.
Motion to recess.
Second.
I have a motion to recess from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are in recess.